Welcome back, everybody, to So Go Whoa Whoa. My apologies for being away for the last actually 3 weeks. I've been working full time again, operating equipment, and it's really long days and it's hard to get all this extra stuff done. I still want to do this, I still want to help you guys, I still want to encourage you to get into these types of blue collar careers. So here I am making another one. Now, we had a suggestion in our comment section about wages, starting wages more specifically, but I decided to take that and do like starting wages, average wages, and even high-end wages, and talk to you guys a little about what you're going to be making as a heavy equipment operator throughout Canada or the US. So I'm going to talk to you about how the wages are set up, but I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about knowing your worth and just not working for ridiculously low wages. It's 2022, actually halfway through 2022. And if there's still businesses out there that think they can pay like it's 1960 or 1970, then I suggest that you don't work for them. I wouldn't. I suggest you do your research as best you can, find out what they are going to pay, but know your worth as well. First thing we'll start off with is obviously in my home country, Canada. We'll start off in sort of the 5 major provinces that you might be possibly working in. I know there's more than that, but I'm just going to use these for example, just for save time, because the average is pretty similar across the board. And then I'm going to do the top 5 states. And there's also, what I will tell you is the more people that are there, the less your wage is going to be. So if you want to earn a higher wage and you are not 100% stuck on where you live, my biggest suggestion to you would be move. That's what I do. I haven't lived in my hometown for many years. I've lived in several towns and cities trying to find the best place, the best fit, the best pay, and sometimes it works out well for a few years and sometimes it doesn't. But I'm okay with that. That's my type of lifestyle. I don't mind that at all. Now, some people don't want to leave their hometown at all, and that's fine too. But what I'm going to say is that is going to limit you on your wage earnings, especially if you are in a highly populated city. The more people there is, the more competition, the more experienced people there is out there. So it's not only harder for you to find work, it's harder for you to get a decent wage out of it as well. In my home province of Alberta, where I live, the entry-level average, it appears, in Alberta for operating heavy equipment appears to be a little over $16 an hour. In fact, $16.54 an hour. Now, please keep in mind that is entry-level, that is no experience whatsoever. That's just, they want to hire you, put you on a packer, or put you on a small excavator or a skid steer, something that they can see that you have ability to operate, and then they'll start moving you up, and also your wage will go up. Now in Alberta, on the higher end, for non-union jobs, the higher end is around $37 an hour to operate heavy equipment. Now that's if you've got several years of experience and you're pretty darn good at it. The average in Alberta is around $25.53. Now keep in mind, the average is lower because there's a lot of companies, and for the most part, these are the majority of the companies, are these smaller companies that have 3 to possibly even 10 pieces of equipment. Now, these businesses cannot afford to pay the same amount as a business like North American or something like that, that literally has hundreds, if not thousands of employees and huge projects coming in, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work. The reason why your wages, average wage is going to be a little lower is because for the majority, it's the small businesses that are employing heavy equipment operators. I do have lots of experience in these types of things, and not to say I'm the best by any means, because I am certainly not the best at probably anything. I'm good and I'm reliable and I know a lot of stuff, and so that makes me valuable. In BC, the average is actually about $6 higher than Alberta. It's $31.50. The low end is actually $25 in BC, and the higher end is $38.63. But please keep in mind, it is more expensive to live in British Columbia. You pay a higher sales tax. In fact, Alberta doesn't even have a sales tax. You pay more for insurances. You pay more for fuel. You pay more for just about every single thing you have. So your wages are about the same. Yes, you make more in BC, but you pay more for everything. So it averages out to be about the same. And that's why you get less in Alberta. Now, Saskatchewan is a little different. Saskatchewan does have a sales tax, but it is still cheaper than BC to live in. The prices of everything are just cheaper than British Columbia. Your entry level is going to be around 16 again. Your average is going to be around 28 though, because it is a little bit more expensive again than in Alberta. Your high end is actually 40, which is the best out of all three of the provinces, which if you're a skilled operator and you can find work in Saskatchewan, then I would encourage you to do that, especially if you're in Canada. We're going to do Ontario as well, which is the largest and most populated province. Now, the starting wages in Ontario, from what I could find, seem to be around $15 an hour. The low end, even for an experienced, is around $19.61. Average, though, is $28 an hour, and the high is $41.64. Now, I still think you're better off to make your 40 in Saskatchewan because, again, Ontario is substantially more expensive to live in than even Saskatchewan or Alberta. Your insurances are more, your taxes are higher, including the taxes that come off your paychecks every week or 2 weeks or bi-monthly or however you get paid. The province of Ontario and the province of British Columbia will by far take the most off those checks. So it's also why I was born in British Columbia and why I don't live there anymore. I just choose not to pay the British Columbian government a big chunk of my wages that I don't really need to. So right across the board, about $15 to $16 an hour in Canada is going to be your entry level operating equipment wage. Now keep in mind that's decent when you consider that you're an entry level, which means you have zero experience. Let me reiterate, if you have any inkling of skill and you show up on time and you're a good worker and you have good work ethic, that wage will jump up quickly because those people will want to keep you around. And if they're not smart enough to keep you around, then go somewhere else. Because if you're starting to get experience and they're still not taking you seriously and they're still not treating you well, there's many companies out there looking for someone like you that maybe isn't the most experienced but has some, a small amount of experience, and they'll pay you more, I can promise you. The average across the provinces appears to be about $20 an hour for the low end. That's, as you'd probably, that'd be about 2 years experience. You'd get 20, that's the low end. Then the median is around just shy of $29 an hour, which is pretty decent money. I mean, it's hard with inflation and everything the way it is right now, but hopefully that gets back to normal relatively soon. And $29 an hour for an average, even for a small business, that's what you'll be making on average across Canada. So, that's pretty decent money to be made, and you're home every night for the most part with those wages. The average across Canada for the high end is $40 an hour, but I will say what also comes with those higher wages, and this is what I do myself, I'm not at home very often, which is also why I struggle making these videos. You have to leave your home. You go where the work is, and they pay you to do that. Of course, you make good money doing it, but that's the sacrifice. So you not only have to have a partner that, is accepting of that, and if you, honestly, when I was younger, it was just easier not to have a partner because of the simple fact that I was never home. So I chose to work a lot, and my partners just couldn't, deal with that. And I don't blame them. That it's hard to date someone who's never there. So, keep that in mind. There are sacrifices, Yeah, you make $40 or $45 or maybe even $50 an hour on some of these big union jobs, but you're going to be away from home and you're going to be away from your family, and you're probably going to be in a big man camp, where you're really not even in a town. You're just in this camp where they kind of control a lot of aspects of your life. And, you get days off, obviously. Most of these big places, you will have a set schedule. It would be 14 and 7, or sometimes they're even 14 and 14. That one was my favorite. When you could work 14 days and then have 14 days off. You're only literally working 6 months a year, and you can do a lot of stuff in 2 weeks. So now we're going to get into the top 5 states, the most populated states. But again, through my research, most of them are fairly close. And I will point a few of these out because, quite frankly, they're appalling. And if you're in these places, then I would highly recommend you going somewhere else. And eventually, if there's no one to do these jobs, the wages will have to go up. We'll start with California, the most populated state in America, just shy of 40 million people. There's very high taxes there as well. There's a lot of money spent there to live in California. Prices of homes and everything else is higher. But, again, an entry level there, from what I can find, is roughly 16 to 16 and a half American dollars, which for a lot of you guys who don't know, there's about a 30% difference between American and Canadian dollars, which the US dollar is worth about 30% more. So for a Canadian to make $16.50 US, we would technically be making $20 an hour as an entry level, which should be pretty decent entry level wage when you have no experience. That being said, though, California is actually pretty decent as far as what, even its low end is about 24, just shy of $25 an hour to operate heavy equipment. And on the high end, now these are most likely union jobs in California, but you're looking at about $45.50 US to operate heavy equipment. That would be roughly like $50 an hour Canadian, or actually about $53 an hour Canadian, something like that. And that would be pretty darn good money. Like, that's actual wage, not contract, that's wage. If you can't live on $100,000 US a year, you might need to figure some stuff out. Next, obviously, highest populated state is Texas. Now, this, I'm sorry, is where in my research that I found these wages are absolutely appalling. I'm sorry if I offend anyone in Texas, but from what I can see, there's legitimate businesses offering these wages for heavy equipment operators in Texas and in many different places for $11 and $12 and $13 an hour. Now, I'll tell you right now, I would not do what I do for $13 an hour. There's no way I would do it. If you want someone experienced and knowledgeable and knows what they're doing and isn't going to wreck your equipment and isn't going to wreck whatever they're working on and dig through pipes and gas lines and everything else, you're going to pay me more. And I'm sorry, but this is, from what I can see, these might be entry-level positions. I'm not entirely able to figure that out because the descriptions don't really say. But if they are, then okay, it's just a little bit lower entry level. And that's fine. If that's the case, then I take back what I said earlier, and I'm sorry, Texas. It's just quite a bit lower entry level wage. From what I've heard, it's substantially cheaper to live in Texas versus California. So again, that makes sense. If the entry level positions in Texas are paying $11, $12, $13 an hour, and it's much cheaper to live in Texas, well, then $16 an hour in California to start is, you're actually better off in Texas. So there you go, Texas. If those are entry level wages, then you guys are doing okay. According to salary.com, your low end in Texas is going to be, for an experienced operator, is going to be around that $23, $24 an hour US, which is still pretty reasonable, I would say, considering, again, the cost of living in Texas is substantially less than a lot of states. Your median wage in Texas, it's actually around $32 an hour US, which, again, that actually sounds pretty darn good to me. That'd be close to $40 an hour Canadian. You're looking at $68,000 a year, just basically your average work week. And your high end in Texas is about $40 an hour. Now that's going to be most likely a union position, but I mean, if you can get in that, or if you can even get close to that outside of a union position, good on you. That's damn good money. That's damn good money, and there's no reason that you couldn't put money in the bank making that kind of money. New York, again, your entry level is actually going to be even lower than Texas by the looks of it, around 10 an hour, maybe 11, because your low end of operating, and these would be small companies or whatever, is around 13-20. So it's not a lot. You'd need to work some overtime to make some money there. I mean, the median average is $28 an hour, which is pretty decent. I mean, I think it's, again, more expensive to live in the state of New York just from taxes and the cost of living, and I mean, population obviously makes insurance go up as well. The more people that are around, there's just more chances of, accidents and things going wrong. So it also makes your work pool, very overpopulated. So finding a good job, finding a good wage is much harder to do when you are competing against, 1,000 different people. If you honestly, do you do what I do and you leave these states or provinces and you go to where the work is, you will get a lot more money even with less experience, because you're leaving your comfort zone and you're leaving where the main competition is. You're going to places where not a lot of people want to go, so they're willing to pay you to do that. The high end is going to be very similar to Texas and California. It's near the $40 an hour in New York. So again, if you're in that and you're in that range and you're working in these states, good on you. And let me know what you guys are making in the comments so that I can get a better idea of where you guys are at as far as experience, what you're making, where you're at, what state you live in, what province you live in, how long it took you to get to that wage. Leave it in the comments so that it'll help me to further better the information for you guys, if for next time, or for if we visit these subjects again, because obviously wages change and positions change and those types of things. So put it in the comments. Let me know, especially if you see or hear something that I might have messed up. I'm expecting from you Texans to say something. I know you guys are very proud, so don't let me down. All right. The next two most populated states are Florida and Pennsylvania. Now, both of them are very similar actually in their low ends and their starting wages, from what I can find, and their medians and their high ends. So the low ends, it's kind of around the 13 to 14. It seems to be kind of the average that I can see throughout the U.S. You're going to start out at 13, 14, maybe even 16, depending on the state. But that is, again, just a starting wage. That's just to try you out, to give you a chance. And that wage, I will guarantee you, will improve quickly when you can show them, that you're a good worker, you're there to work, you're there to help them, not only yourself, and you're there to be part of the team. Your average low end is going to be about $22 to $24 an hour, which is pretty decent. I mean, especially if you're just wanting to, you don't need a whole bunch, but you just want to pay for some stuff and pay your bills. Especially you running operating equipment, you're going to get overtime guaranteed because of the seasons and those types of things. So, it's going to add up. Your median wage is going to be around the $28, $29 an hour US. Now that's pretty decent money, especially with overtime and that type of stuff. It's actually better money in the US than Canada, because we are making those same wages in Canada, but in Canadian dollars. And again, your guys is worth 30% more. So, and then the average, the higher end. Now Florida's a little bit lower. Not sure why, but probably just because of the beautiful weather and people want to be there. So they got an abundance of workers that will live and work in Florida, so they don't have to pay on the higher end. Their higher end is around 32, 33 in Florida. Pennsylvania for some odd reason is even lower than that for their high end. It's around 29, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure what. Maybe there's just lots of people that like operating equipment in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. Let me know. I don't know why their wages would be so on average lower than the top, than the next 4 states close to them, but they are. There in the nutshell is your entry level wages in Canada and the US. And like I said, if you want those high wages and you're willing to sacrifice being away from home, you're gonna get the high wages. You're gonna get the real high wages, because a lot of people won't do that. Now, if you don't want to be away from home, that's okay too, and I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. You don't have to go away. You just be prepared though. You are gonna make a lesser wage than your friends or whatever that will travel to get the wage. I hope this helped you guys, like, to at least figure out where you're gonna be starting at as far as wages go, what it's gonna kind of look like, moving up as far as your wages will move up to, what you could potentially earn as an experienced operator, And honestly, you could only be doing it for 2 or 3 years, but if you're good at it, they're gonna pay you. Obviously, the more years of experience you have, as with any job, and especially if you're good at it, you're probably gonna demand higher dollars. But keep trying, keep slugging, and by all means, keep writing what you guys would like me to talk about in these videos as well, because I really enjoy your guys' feedback. It actually really helps me sometimes too, especially when I'm working. It gives me ideas of what you guys would like, and this one really got myself interested, and so that's why I delved into it. And it's a bit longer, I know, but I wanted to give you guys like a good understanding of what your wages are going to be roughly. So I hope this helped you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.